For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble. Thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Happy September. It is, the summer's over already, and it's interesting when we do this show on Fridays, what a difference a week can make. Because when we did our show last week, Texas wasn't going through what it is. Now, here's the deal. We actually had a discussion a few moments ago. Should we talk about this on The Scribble? This is one of those things where some people are sick of hearing about it. But here's the deal. Some people are sick of living it, right? I know I was talking with my mom the other day, and I'm not saying that she's insensitive, but I said we went to go walk my dogs, and so she asked me, what were you doing tonight, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I've been watching the news coverage of the floods, whatever. And she kind of groaned as though, I'm sick of hearing about it. And I think what it is we had a bit of discussion. Like I said, it wasn't that she was being cold-hearted. It was that she was almost... It's painful to hear, and so you're sick of hearing that. So it's not like the Trump stories, where a lot of Canadians kind of look at it and go, God, these people just bitch about politics every single day. I think what my mom was meaning was that she was sick of hearing about the devastation. Not that she wants to forget about it or pretend that it's not happening, but certainly... It's kind of like, wow. And I think that it's the same sentiment that people obviously there in Texas are having. We were broadcasting from Houston last Christmas. We did our top 40 in our country music show from there for Christmas. And then we also had the clips here on the podcast. And it was just an incredible city. So you know that you can text, you know that you can go to the Red Cross website, like you know all of these ways. So I'm not here to do like a PSA for how you can donate and how you can get involved. You know that, you've seen it on social media, you know, you're well informed about that. So I just want to say, when we were in Texas, we had a great time. And I have to tell you that we have done the travel shows for probably about, it's at least over 5 years now. And the Houston show was the most busy that we had ever had. Like, we actually had so many businesses and locations that wanted us to come and feature. They wanted to be part of the shows, which was really cool. And one of the stops that it just sticks out in my mind was we did what we called the cowboy conversion. And so it was actually added to the schedule almost at the last minute. We had everything kind of figured out, and then somebody in a planning meeting said, why don't we get you dressed up like a cowboy? And I kind of was like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, fine, okay. And sure enough, we ended up reaching out to a place, and we got this clothing outfitter that had said, we'd love to have you in. So I thought, okay, here we go. So we had scheduled it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And a lot of times with these schedules, there is room in between. So if something is running late, it doesn't throw off the entire schedule. I ended up spending about 3 hours at this place talking with the guys. I am the furthest thing from a cowboy, let me tell you that. But when I walked in there, again, it's overwhelming because you see like animal skins and things like that. And I asked for whoever, I asked for so-and-so, and I was told, he's just with somebody right now. Can I get you a beer or a shot of whiskey? And I was like, I thought he was joking, but they were just that welcoming there. And so the two men who kind of hung out with me for the afternoon, and the store had already closed and we were still there talking. We got me dressed up in a bunch of different outfits, and they had all these ideas for the different poses that we could do and things. And we stood there talking. We had about 3 hours of conversation. And then at the end, we had taped our interviews. We had done everything. And I said, all right, well, I'll give you the clothes back. And I took off my hat and I started taking off the boots. And the man in charge there said, would you wear that again? And I said, well, I'm going out for dinner actually right after this, or I had some appointment or something. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a cool outfit. Come on, you gave me boots, a hat, a shirt, everything, and a vest. And he's like, all right, you can keep it. Take it home. Take it home. It's yours. And it was just so cool because, one, I wasn't expecting that. I'm not expecting to take home a cowboy outfit. And two, they were just so genuinely nice there. And so that's something that when you watch the news coverage and you see the stories of the rescue and the people trying to stay positive, because I think I'd be pissy a week in already. But that was something that I took away from there, was that everybody was just so helpful. And the people who were really wanting to be part of our programming. And I was kind of like, wow, it's weird because we often get people, interested, but this was like, oh yeah, we'd love to. Oh yeah, do you need anything else? How's your planning coming? Like, they were reaching out to us before we even got there. So I can't say enough great things about it. We were going to replay some of those clips on our radio shows earlier in the week, but I just thought, you know what? We're there celebrating the city and what it was. Obviously, it's not quite that way now, right? It's underwater. So it kind of seemed like it would almost be self-serving for us. And so we decided not to play any of the clips or any of that stuff. But of course, we're thinking about the people there. And also keep in mind, too, we are seeing a lot of the stories of the humans being rescued. And arguably, people will say that a human life is more important than an animal or whatever. But there are a lot of pets. I'm a pet owner, and it would be the hardest decision for me. I had a discussion with some family members last weekend. We had a function, and we were talking about like the pets that were left behind, and my aunt was saying about, when it's a child, you don't think about it, you just go. And I said, well, you know what? I don't have kids, and I'm an animal lover. I would feel the same way, is that if I couldn't bring my dogs and my rabbit, if I couldn't bring the pets with me, then I think I would I would wait it out in my house. I'm not going to leave them behind. It would kill me to do that, because I internalize it, and this is where I'm a little bit different, I guess, than most people, is that the sadness for me is my dog sitting there going, what the hell is going on? Where is he? We need him. Why did he leave us? That's what would kill me. Now, I don't know that dogs think that way, right? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But that's what would eat me alive. I wouldn't be able to sleep. I wouldn't be able to live with myself, realizing that there's a chance that they could be just fine on their own. But humans, at least, can use their common sense to break a window or do something or get out. Whereas, an animal that's confined into a house doesn't necessarily have that option. So that's where I'm not saying that they're more important than humans. And of course you save humans, and you save as much as you can, whether that's property, people, things. But, it's just sad to see these stories of a dog sitting on the roof of a car and, the people. Nobody wants to leave their pet behind. I'm not saying that these people are bad pet owners, but it's devastating. It would be a terrible decision that I would have to make. And I would probably lose my life in my house because of floodwaters than leave my dogs in that kind of distress. So there you go. Hey, we're going to have some fun sarcastic chatter coming up right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. We have had so much happening on this show, as I was mentioning in the last segment with the travel programming and all that other stuff, that I haven't had a chance to chime in on Bachelor in Paradise. We had Daniel Maguire, fellow Canadian, on the show, was it 3 weeks ago now? And he was talking about how, there was a bunch of people that are going on the show that are already in relationships, and I think it's really starting to make people, and by people I mean Bachelor Nation as it's called, it's starting to really make people see what reality show programming is all about. Because when the shows first started out, it appeared to be that whoever it was, the Bachelor, Bachelorette, the male or female, whoever was the lead character that season, was genuinely looking for love, because the genre hadn't really progressed to the point where, hey, if I'm a villain, I can become famous and keep coming back and make money just to be a dick. And so when the shows first started, you didn't have the evil casting as they have now, but certainly in light of the Corinne and DeMario scandal, if you follow that story, you know that there was talk that he sexually assaulted her, and they were drinking, and it got out of hand, and a producer stepped in, filed a complaint, shut things down. Warner Brothers investigated, found there was no misconduct, and then production of the show resumed. But there's a bunch of points to that are very interesting, because now that the season of Bachelor in Paradise is on, we certainly didn't see much in terms of the actual footage that sparked this whole thing. Now, it's ironic, and I've expressed this a few times, that it's interesting that ABC, which is a Disney company, a Disney network, is touting itself with this big scandal surrounding sexual assault. So that's what was odd for me before this season started. Now that the season is on, everybody was excited to tune in and see what was going to happen. And in the first week, because it's airing 2 nights per week, Monday and Tuesday, the first week, it was very watered down, where you just, at the end of the one episode, you kind of see a producer or some sound guy or camera guy go and say, okay, stop, cut it. And then it's to be continued tomorrow, which was Tuesday. And then when they have Tuesday, there's really not much shown, and then they have the cast together talking like it's an after-school special about, is it appropriate if somebody says no to continue on? And you've got all of these adults talking like they're kids learning about sex for the first time. But then when you think about it, these are irresponsible adults in the first place who are over-drinking, having too much fun, and hooking up with random strangers, despite already having relationships outside of this show anyway. So people felt duped watching it, because all of this talk about the scandal, so now we tune in and want to see what all the fuss was about, and they don't show anything about it. And then the next week, there's not really much drama. And then the second night of the show, we're seeing these former cast members either, get married, and then they're announcing a pregnancy, and there's all these things. So my question to the Bachelor in Paradise folks, the producers, whoever it is making these decisions, we've got 4 hours of show every week, okay? You've got 2-hour show on Monday, 2-hour show on Tuesday. The first week, we kind of stopped down to have this grown-up talk about when is no, no, and when is yes, yes. And they felt that it was a very important discussion to have. Okay, fine, but maybe not on primetime television when you've been hyping up this whole big thing about a scandal. And then secondly, now we're seeing a wedding from people that aren't even on the show this season, which I realize that they don't have the best track record for happy and successful couples, that they want to milk this for all it's worth. But to me, what is that saying about the confidence in the cast that you have? Is there not enough meat and potatoes on this season that you've got to start throwing in all of this other stuff to kind of distract from what's not there? And it's interesting, when I live tweet on Mondays and Tuesdays for Bachelor in Paradise, I see how many people are just not into the show. And now there's almost this resentment in Bachelor Nation for people who are kind of thrashing the show, saying it's boring and da-da-da-da-da. Now, on the flip side of that, and I'm one of those people that bitches and complains about it, but here's the difference, because people do question me and say, well, if you hate it so much, why are you watching it? Why are you tweeting? Get this, folks, I'm an entertainment reporter and I get paid to tweet TV shows. So you know what? I will sit through it. I will sit through it and have a good time mocking and making fun of these people who are humiliating themselves on television. I will do that. It is part of my job. But what's interesting is to see the ratings and the numbers of viewers falling this season. So despite them having a great season premiere, which I think was the best ever. Now, this is only the 4th season of Bachelor in Paradise. So this season, they overly hyped the scandal and got people. They drew them in the first night. But traditionally on Tuesdays now, the show is kind of falling in the ratings. It is not, it's losing an audience. So when you might have, and I don't remember the exact numbers, I don't have them in front of me, but it was 5 million viewers on the first 2 Mondays, and then it was a significant drop to about 3-point-something million. So when you think about it, you lost 1 million viewers from one day to the next. That is huge. There was a 20-some% drop in viewership from one day to the next. Needless to say, TV networks don't want to see that. So, I think that they were sort of, well, it's hard to say. When they made the programming choice to have 2 nights of shows, which I believe they did last year as well, maybe there was a little bit more happening on the show. And what's interesting about relationships, quote-unquote relationships on the show, is that they say they're being tested. So just when couple A thinks they're getting along, all of a sudden swinging single female B comes in and now is tempting a guy and going on dates with him. And I guess that's almost how the real world works, right? Now when you think about it, if you're on a dating app, you might be getting to know 4 or 5 people at the same time, and then you're kind of, it's almost like a category on an award show. It's like, well, who's the best? Who's got the hottest body? Who's got the most money? Who's whatever? And then you kind of make your decision based on that. At the same time, that's what's happening on this television show, yes, but you're being tempted. So you're in paradise, they call it, but it seems to have the worst weather every time they're there. I've been to Mexico several times. I don't even think it's ever rained when I've been there, but they seem to go during hurricane season or whatever it is. And so it is fascinating to see that producers just kind of throw all this stuff into the mix, but then the people kind of get the wandering eye anyway, and it's all about skin and sweat and, fantasy dates that aren't going to continue in real life. So it's interesting to see how Bachelor Nation, used to support the couples, but is now kind of just taking it for what it's worth as a TV show now. So if you watch Bachelor in Paradise, you can follow along with my live tweets at Jeremy D. Bradley, And you can also email me. I would love to have a discussion with you by email back and forth about the show, because, yeah. It's interesting that when we had Daniel on a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people didn't realize that people are paid to go onto these shows. Now, I know that just because I'm in entertainment, and the reality shows are popular in the summer because it's cheap for them to produce. It is cheap for producers to get, these idiots to go and be paid, $2,000 a day to go to Mexico, as opposed to, a celebrity that's paid $1 million a week to be on a sitcom, right? Or on a show. So I've always known that these people are paid. It used to be hush-hush. It wasn't always kind of widely talked about, but now people generally know. So when you hear things like that, or when you even see the contract that producers are able to manipulate footage and do this and change your words and edit things and morph them into what they're not, it is for entertainment. And it's interesting that it's taken so many years, but people are now starting to come around and realize that, oh yeah, it's entertainment, it's TV. Producers don't care if these people find love. They want the sparks, they want the drama, they want the controversy. It's interesting, though, how they pissed away the opportunity of this scandal, where they've hyped it up, they shut it down, there's statements released beforehand, they resume production, everybody's like, oh, what's going to happen with Bachelor in Paradise? And then it kind of just fizzles out when the show is back, because they don't really show anything. And, there was just nothing. It was just a big letdown. So I think they really did themselves a disservice, whether it's producers, whoever made the decision to not include any of the dramatics behind what they were ranting and raving about. It just seems very odd to me. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. Love that commercial for Mexico. So it kind of ties into everything we've been talking about today in terms of Labor Day and holidays, and then Bachelor in Paradise, which is taped in Mexico, and and then we were in Indianapolis. I am I rarely get vacation time just because I'm bored so often, so that I don't even really take vacations. I'm the boss at our company, so really, I mean, I can do a vacation anytime I want. So I had a few days off. And you'd think that with a few days off, you're going to do a bunch of stuff around the house. You can lay out in the yard and get a tan. You can go shopping. You can do whatever. I slept a bunch. I had a bunch of naps on the couch, and I had a bunch of baths, but I was incredibly bored by like day 3. And so then naturally, I use the phone and I start doing some work, emails, and just doing a bunch of things. I'm not a big social media person, so I certainly don't I have a BlackBerry. There's no apps or anything on a BlackBerry, so that's my one excuse for not being app addicted, is they're just not available for my phone. But I found that I don't know. I appreciated the time off, but then I was like, I'm not really doing anything. I went for a bunch of walks with the dogs, so we got a lot of exercise. It's not like I just laid around and ate. There were some days where I would have like a couple of cubes of cheese and some crackers, and that was all that I ate for the day, because I was lounging around. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't working up an appetite. And then there was one night where I got into this. I don't know if it was blueberry martini or some sort of like a drink mix that you just put with vodka. Blue raspberry is what it was. And I just dumped a bunch of ice into the blender and the vodka and this blue raspberry mix, and had a giant pitcher of whatever these were, if it was martinis or not margaritas. Anyway, and I had a big pitcher of that, and I stayed up until like 4:30 in the morning, slept until noon the next day, then was kind of feeling it. And I spent that afternoon and evening on the couch. I ordered some delivery. I had Wendy's brought. I ordered delivery. I had like $30-some of Wendy's. I had a burger. I had a baked potato with bacon and cheese and a Frosty and all these things. And it was that was kind of fun. I will admit, I had a good time just kind of hanging out on the couch, watching TV, ordering food. I wasn't really hungover, but it was just slow going that day. But it was kind of nice. And it threw my sleeping pattern off, though, even just for the 2 days that I was kind of not with it. But that's how I spent my time off. So it's interesting how people will take vacation time and go halfway around the world and sightsee and travel. Well, I get to do that for my job, right? Like we were talking about that earlier with Indianapolis, and you heard the coverage or saw the pictures online. So for me, when I actually get time off, I kind of want to do nothing. So my life is sort of the opposite of the average person who has to work, get the vacation time, and then can go away. For us, we get to travel for the job, and when it comes to weekends or downtime, I kind of just want to hang out at home and do nothing. Like, it's a little bit different. And so, because I get bored, and when we've taken our radio shows to Mexico, I'm notorious for ruining the downtime. Like, when they're planning our schedule, oftentimes the tourism board or whoever it is we'll say, okay, well, you know what, we'll give him the afternoon off. We'll give him like a 3-hour break. He can lounge by the pool. He can have a nap. He can do whatever. I ruin that time. I will go lay out by the pool and then just get so bored because I can't shut off my brain that I get up and then I go into the water for a bit. And then I go and lounge around. And then I go up to the room because I don't know, it's just too hot outside. And then I come back down to the pool. And then I go in the water again. And I'm antsy. I can't lay there for a half hour without doing something. And that's my problem. I know you're not going to have sympathy for me. Oh my God, he's getting paid to vacation in Mexico and he's antsy. He can't figure out something to do when he's got 3 hours to spare. It really is. I mean, I laugh about it too, going, yeah, this is the dream that I can go and do this stuff. When we were in Indianapolis, again, in all honesty, I know the tourism rep was emailing one of my colleagues asking, you know, do I go to bars? Do I do anything? And in all honesty, when we're done taping for the day, I'm in my hotel room and I'm in the bathtub and I'm just kind of hiding out. Because I think also too, there's a lot of pressure when I'm doing the shows that I've got to be on, right? I'm the host of the show, which is fine. I mean, I get that expectation. I certainly don't go into it believing I'm a celebrity and I've got to hide out from the paparazzi or people stalking me, because I'm just a regular guy. I just happen to host radio shows. So, but I kind of like just the downtime. I like to be alone, and it's overwhelming when you've got all these people around you for 4 days, 5 days straight, whatever it is, and you just want to kind of escape. So again, when I have the opportunity at home to kind of escape. I appreciate the time, but then I'm bored out of my mind. So when you're bored, time just drags on. So, yeah, I know. As we've said about Labor Day bringing to end summer, and now here I am. So I did appreciate a few days off at home, but I like what I do as well. I think I've got a really cool job. We've got a really cool setup here. So for me, it isn't really working. I mean, I get paid to talk to celebrities, and I get paid to tweet and mock idiots on TV shows. It's kind of a sweet deal when you think about it. So anyway, how do you spend your downtime? If you got a day off or 2 days off, are you hustling and bustling? Everybody always says, my mom comments that, well, maybe you could clean your house on your day off. Well, I pay somebody to do that. I might be a cheapskate at heart for some things, but when I've got a day off, the last thing that I want to be doing is spending 6 hours cleaning every square inch of my house. That is not what I find fun. So will I blow the money and just have somebody do it for me? Absolutely. That's one of those things. So what do you do with your downtime? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here on the Scribble. Every time I say my name, I always kind of think, should I change it up? You probably went through that as a kid, right? Where you hated your name. Oh, I hate my middle name. I hate my first name. I don't like my last name. I want to change it. Sometimes you changed it to your favorite celebrity's name, right? Like I would be Jeremy Pitt. A lot of people are now doing the Jeremy Kardashian thing. Not Jeremy as the first name, but you get what I'm saying. And lately I've noticed, and I've always thought it was just more of a pompous, arrogant kind of a thing, but it seems that a lot of people have it where they've got just the first initial and then a name. Well, what was the guy from Trump's H.R. McMaster or whatever that is? I'm just kind of like, you're such a dick with the name like that. But for instance, I would be J. David Bradley. Like, does that just sound more regal and elegant? And like, I don't know. It actually does kind of sound more professional. Try it with your own name. See what happens. If you do your first initial, middle name, and last name, does it sound more dignified? Does it sound like... And the more I think about it now, J. David Bradley does actually kind of sound cooler, don't you think? J. David Bradley. I don't know. But did you ever do that? Did you change up your name? We've all heard about that whole thing, like you come up with your porn star name or whatever, and it's your pet's name and your street and blah, 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 blah. But you must have had a name that you thought. I was watching, here's how nerdy of a kid I was. I was watching the Home Shopping Channel when I was a kid, and I don't remember exactly what the product is. I'm sure if I Googled it or I did some kind of research, I could remember what it was. But it was the name Capo di Monte. And again, I don't know if that was the brand, if that was the product, what the hell it was. Maybe that was a person's name on there. I'm not sure, but I just remember the name Capo di Monte. And I thought that'd be a really cool last name to have. J. David Capo di Monte. What do you think? See, the problem is, as many people in the public, oh my God, what am I going to say? I'm drawing a blank here on a talk show. Public personalities, public whatever, is that you spend so much time branding who you are with your name that all of a sudden you're now you've spent all this time and money or whatever, and now you go and change your name. Kim Kardashian West, right? So public, what is it? It's a public, I can't even think of what the name is. You're a public figure. There you are. Thank you so much. You're a public figure. Maybe I should rebrand with a different name after that. Oh boy. All right. So anyway, J. David Bradley. I don't know if that... It is. It's kind of like sticking with me now. Now I'm going to have to look up and see if those Twitter handles and everything are available, and then I'll take them. But I don't know. Tell me what you think. Send me an email. live@jbonair.com. Well, then we'd have to change it to JDB on air, no? live at jbonair.com, and we're on Twitter at The Scribble Show.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
We're out of time here on The Scribble. I will be back same time, same place next week. Again, we're at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. Talk to you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,